So, if you just want to start by saying who you are, like your name, what college you went to when, and all that, just any general stuff you want people to know. But,
is it on? Do you want like my maiden name and everything, or just my name?
Whatever you want to say.
Okay, my name is Debbie Garone. I was Debbie Nicholson when I went to Penn State. So I went to Penn State from 1982 to 1986, and I was Alpha Chi Omega sorority while I was there.
Okay. So what was Greek life like in general at Penn State during this time? Sororities, fraternities, all that kind of stuff.
What was it like? So it was, I think, pretty popular. There are a lot of, I can't remember the numbers now, it's been a long time, but there were a lot of sororities and fraternities at Penn State. So it was a pretty big part of campus life. At least, I don't know, I thought it was, I guess, because I was involved in it. But outside, off of campus, almost all of the fraternity houses are located off campus, but there were a few on campus. And sororities that don't have houses, but each sorority had a floor in a dorm and a suite in that dorm that they used for their meetings and everything. So there was a pretty large presence in one of the dorm areas where the sororities were housed. So you saw them around, and it was a significant presence, I think. I think it still is.
So what was recruitment like, sorority recruitment, and what was new member period like, or I don't know if you called it pledging, but...
Yeah, okay, so when I went, it was called rushing, and it was called pledging, and it was a period of, I don't know how, it started with, I think you went to like a big meeting where they explained it, and then there was a series of parties and rounds, and there was first rounds, second rounds, third rounds, and preference parties, and it was kind of like a process of elimination on both sides by the potential sorority member and by the sorority itself. So in first rounds, I think you just signed up and you went around and you visited each sorority, and they explained kind of what they were all about and what they did and their mission and different things. And they were shorter parties, and there was a lot of, and I kind of want to say there was 15 or 20 sororities, quite a few. So you visited them, and then afterwards you would kind of make your list and cut it down and say, I liked the top, I can't remember what the numbers were, but I liked these 10 the best, and you kind of ranked them in an order. And the sororities did the same thing. And while you were there, you met, like a certain group of girls, like 3 or 4 girls would talk to you, and then I think they would go back and talk amongst each other and say, we think this person's a good fit, or I had a lot in common with this person, or whatever. So you each made your list, and then they matched them up, and then you got, and I can't remember how they delivered it to you, because back then, this was before the days of online email or texting or anything on the phone. So I think it was notes that came under your door in your dorm room. And it would give you your list of parties for the next round. So if the next round was, a series of visiting maybe 8 or something sororities, and then you would go to those. And then sometimes as the parties went on, they got longer, and sometimes they got themed. So you could kind of get a feel for what the sorority was doing or what kind of events they liked or whatever. And you would just keep doing that, and then until you got down to preference round. So like second round you would cut it down again, and then you would go back for third rounds, and then third rounds you would, I think you cut down to 3 after that. And then so you could only go to a maximum of 3 preference parties. And then you would visit those 3, and those were the parties where you got all dressed up and they got all dressed up and everybody went all out and tried to make their best impression. And then you would make your list, your top choice, second, third choice, and the sororities would do the same, and then they matched you up and you received your bid. And I personally suicided, which was not recommended at the time, but that was when you just knew you wanted one over the others, and you only put that one on your thing and hope that they picked you too. And they did.
So what was bid day like? Was it a big celebration? And then what was new member period like?
It was, so bids, again, this was before electronics and all of those devices. So you were told to stay in your room, to be in your room between a certain period of time. and somebody came around and knocked on your door with a bid in their hand, if I remember correctly. And, if you got the bid, and if you accepted the bid, you came with them, and they took you back to the suite. So it was, again, like a big room, like a family room kind of a thing in the dorm, where you would go and meet your potential new members or pledges and all your sisters. And it was a celebration, but I don't think, it was all very exciting, and you went in, there was a lot of happiness and cheering and crying and, girl stuff. And so it was fun. Yeah, I kind of almost don't remember. I do remember being nervous and having to sit in my room for, waiting, like, okay, if they don't show up between 5 and 7 o'clock or whatever time it was, then you knew, like, oh, maybe it wasn't going to work out. But so that was bid day. And then I can't remember if it happened on that day. It might have. If the day that you got your bid, it was also the day that you got your pledge pin and everything. So back in those days, we got ribbons. First we got a green and red just ribbon on a pin, I think, that day. And you had to wear that to signify that you were a pledge for Alpha Chi. And then after a period of time, there was an official ceremony or something. And then you got your real pledge pin, which was little diamond, whatever, that we had to wear. Yeah. That we had to wear everywhere you went, and you couldn't not have it on.
Yeah.
If you got caught without having it on, it was bad. But there was never I never experienced any kind of hazing or anything. It was not allowed back then either. I'm sure things happen, but it wasn't something that Alpha Chi did that I experienced. In any kind of just fun things, that we had to wear a pledge pin. We had to do certain silly things, but nothing that was harmful or bad or humiliating or anything like that. So it was good.
And did you have big sister, little sister reveal during that time?
We did.
What was that like?
That was different too. Yeah. So during pledging, our pledging was a series of things that you had to do. We had to keep little notebooks, and you were supposed to visit the sisters. And so because most of them lived on one dorm floor, not everybody, there wasn't enough room for everyone, and some people were off campus, but so you were supposed to go and visit. This is how you got to know the sisters. So you had to go and visit, and you had to kind of keep track of where they were from, what their major was, just like little facts about them. And then periodically at our pledge meetings, we'd have little like quizzes or something that could be a pop quiz, and you were supposed to know. And it was just a whole way of trying to get to know each other. And when you met with the sisters, they would get to know you too, because not only were you learning about them, but they were asking you where you were from and what were you interested in and stuff like that. So, so as you're doing that and you're getting to know people, you kind of get to know, who you have more in common with or whatever, and they you as well. But then they picked, there was no choice of the pledges of who their big sister would be. You could think, I hope it's so-and-so because I like her and I get along with her or whatever, but they would decide. And so I can't remember. It was some kind of a reveal, which I kind of hardly remember, but we did something, and it was a surprise, and they gave you something. I'm trying to even remember what I got. I even have some of this stuff at home. I wish I had thought to bring it, but a little token, a memento, like I think framed saying and a few different things or whatever that were like, little gifts that they thought of you or whatever. But so that's what it was. But there was no input from the pledge as to who her big sister would be. It was just, they picked you.
Okay, so I read online that the two great loves of Penn Staters are fundraising and drinking. So can you speak to this? I guess specifically I came up with that. I sent you that video, or Lindsay sent you that video of the Phi Psi 500.
Right.
And they said that was an exemplification of the two loves of Penn State. So I don't know if that was true for you, if that was true for your friends, or what your experience with that specific event was. I know you were kind of telling Lindsay a little bit about it, but
Yeah, well, that was an event. Now, that was a specific fundraiser for a fraternity, if I say. And so that was the thing that they ran. And because it was a big event and it ran around the downtown area of campus and everything, so a lot of people got involved in that and a lot of organizations. I never ran it. It was an event and it was a thing to go to and watch.
Yeah.
Wasn't something I ever did or wanted to do. And I don't know if I would say it was a love, but it was, it was a thing. I don't know if they still do it anymore. They probably don't. Probably not allowed to do that kind of stuff anymore. But, it was an event. That's all I could say. It was, Penn State's a huge school, and so, there's definitely a lot of partying that goes on. But around the football team, there's tailgating. So when, there's 100,000 people there for a football game, and alumni come back from everywhere, and there's fields and fields and miles of cars parked and partying. So, that goes on, and everybody loves that. But then, you watch the football game too, and you support the team and whatever. And but then on the flip side, there's the fundraising. So, and the big fundraiser at Penn State is the dance marathon, which they call Fawn now. And so that's run by the Greek, by the Panhell and IFC Panhell councils, and so it's an amazing event. And I think it's even more amazing now. When I was there, I didn't dance in it, but every year we spent a lot of time raising money for the Four Diamonds Fund, for which is kind of like the Jimmy Fund in Boston. It's like cancer for kids. We did a lot of canning. We went, and we would go out to other towns, back to people's hometowns or whatever for a weekend and stay at their house and then can in their towns and try to raise money. And you sent letters and things to your family and friends and asked them if they wanted to donate. There were a lot of events around that. And then the dance marathon itself is 48 hours long, and you have to dance the whole time. And they have, it's so well run. I would love to go back and see it now because I think it's grown so much. I can't even imagine. But it's huge, and people dance. Not only Greek organizations dance. I mean, people representing sports teams dance. People representing any kind of other clubs. Just anybody can dance. You could just say, I want to do this, and help raise money for it. And so, and then they have a morale committee where people come. You have a specific shift, so say, because people are dancing for 48 hours and nonstop basically, they get to a point where they're delirious and they can barely stand, and you have to go and cheer them on, and so you get a shift. I did it one year, and I can remember going at 2 to 4 in the morning or whatever, and you have to get up and you get yourself over to the gym where they were dancing, and they're falling down and they're so tired and they can't, but it's just nice for them to see other people out there supporting them and keeping them going, and they all stay on their feet. It's amazing. So that's the big fundraiser that everybody works towards. And I think if I'm correct, it's the largest student-run fundraiser in the world. I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Actually, I heard through the grapevine that the person who runs it now, they take a whole year off from school.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it like that when you were there?
I don't know if it was like that when I was there. It may not have been, because I know. I mean, now they hold it in a facility it wasn't even there when I was there, but a big gym, and it was in a smaller gym when I was there, so I think it's probably grown so much. It's been a long time, so I guess it should grow. So I don't know if that was the case then, but I know it was a lot of work, and a lot of people were involved in it, and I never worked on it on that level. I just volunteered as a morale person. But yeah, it's a great event. It would be fun to go back and see it again.
Did you guys have Greek Week or any sort of event that was like Greek Week, and what was that like? Did you participate?
Yep, we did have Greek Week. We participated in a lot of things. We participated in homecoming too. There was always events around homecoming that fraternities and sororities would partner together and do things. And so, for homecoming, we would be in the parade. So we would create floats and different things, and there was usually a theme, and participate in that, and you would partner with a fraternity to do that. So, and then you'd be spending, as much free time as you could, probably at the fraternity house because they had space to like build your float or whatever. And we would, and you'd have the chicken wire and little pieces of tissue paper, and it was called pomping, and we'd have to go out and pomp. And that was like the thing, we're going out to pomp at, whatever house at whatever time, and you just sit there filling it with the different pieces of tissue paper to make it look like a float, like it was in the Rose Parade. So yeah, we did that, and then there was Greek Week in the spring, and we participated in that every year. And same thing, you partnered with a fraternity, and I think it was a fraternity invited you, and it might be the different fraternities invited. Like you might say, we got an invitation from, Delta Chi, Pi Cap, and Teak or whatever, and then if you had already done something with one of them, or whatever, you would pick or something like that. I can't quite remember how it happened but I believe it was they that we weren't assigned a partner. I think it was an invitation kind of a thing. So we did Greek Week, and there was always a theme, and there were different events that went along with it. I can't remember all of them, but I know there was like a skit was the big thing, and one particular Greek Week stands out to me when we did I don't know exactly what the theme was, but we did MTV, and this was when MTV was kind of new, had only been around for a couple of years, and our skit, we had people who acted as, I don't know if you know MTV, and I haven't seen it for many years, but they had VJs, and so a couple of people pretended they were whoever the VJs were, like Martha and Nina, and I can't remember all their names, but they were the VJs, and then we would do skits like that were the videos, like they would make their announcement or do whatever they were going to do, and then there was a skit, and we would perform something like we were doing like the Michael Jackson Thriller video or something, or Cyndi Lauper's Girls Just Want to Have Fun. That was actually a song that we did. I know we did that one, and can't remember. That was very fun. And I can't remember if we won that year. If we didn't win, we came close. That was a really good one. That was a lot of fun, but we spent a lot of time working on that. And there are other events which I kind of can't even remember around Greek Week, because that was like the big one, and that one took up most of the time. But that was always fun.
I think I read online, did you guys have Greek Sing as well, or was that after you, or maybe I just misread that?
It's possible. I probably didn't do it because I can't sing anything. So there might have been a Greek Sing. It doesn't really ring a bell with me, but
it's okay. Did your sorority have socials with fraternities, or was there anything like that?
Yep. We had socials. There was usually a social. I can't remember if they were Tuesday nights. I think it might have been Tuesday night, and Friday nights were like social nights. And again, it was the same thing, and we would vote on them, I think, at our chapter meetings, and they would invite us, and they would, they would say, I don't know if it was like one time at the beginning of the semester we got invitations from all of these, or if it was kind of a weekly thing. This week so-and-so invited us, or whatever. But yeah, we would go, and there was always a theme, and we would usually go as a group. We would usually meet, like I said, I think it was Tuesday nights were social nights, but I can't remember exactly, or Thursdays. I can't remember.
It's okay.
But yeah, we would go out, and usually, if they were Friday nights, it was usually that we would go out early, like maybe at 7. The social was at 6 or 7. And then it opened up into a party afterwards. But at the time that we were there, it was usually just the fraternity and us. And there was usually a theme, whether it was like a luau or like Las Vegas night, or some kind of theme, and we would dress up for it and go with the theme, and go out. Yeah.
Did your chapter have a specific philanthropy event you focused on? Because I know Alpha Chi now focuses on domestic violence awareness, and that I think they made that their national philanthropy sometime in the 80s. But did you guys focus on that, or what did you focus on?
I honestly don't remember focusing on that so much. I remember more about the dance marathon and the Four Diamonds Fund. I don't know if the domestic violence focus was there when I was there. I kind of can't even remember it. I remember canning, and I remember doing stuff, so it wasn't as big. I know that there were a lot of other things. They emphasized a lot of like using the sorority and the friends that you made and the resources for academic support and stuff like that, and you know, just making connections and having people in your major and people to talk to and stuff like that. But I don't remember that we actually did anything about domestic violence at the time specifically, but maybe I just don't remember that part.
It's okay. So I know you talked a little bit about the housing structure of Greek life. Did you ever live on that floor, and what was it like, or did you move off campus? Like, what was the living situation like? Because I know like at UMass it's a little bit different. So if you want to explain a little bit about that.
Yes, I did. I did live on the floor. So I pledged as a freshman, which at Penn State was rather unusual because most people take a year. It's big. Penn State's twice the size of UMass, maybe, and most people take a while to figure out what they want to do and what they want to get involved in. I have no idea why I wanted to do that as a freshman, how I even knew it. I had someone who was older than me, an acquaintance from home, who was someone I knew, whatever, and I knew that she was in a sorority. She was actually in Alpha Chi, too. So I knew that she'd been there, but I didn't know her well, and she was quite a few years older than me, so she was no longer there when I was there. But I think just because I kind of knew her and I felt like I had something in common with her, and I thought, well, she liked this and she did this, I'm going to see what it's all about. So I did it as a freshman, which was, like I said, kind of unusual. But so for my sophomore and junior year, I did live on the floor, which was good. My sophomore year was actually probably my best year on the floor, and I had the room that on the floor, we had the fourth floor of a dorm, which was the top floor, and our suite was downstairs in the lobby area. And I don't even know how many rooms there were, but there was one room that used to be like a single, but they turned it into a double, so it was called the small double. And then there was one room, I think, that was probably originally like a large double, but they put 3 people in, so it was a triple. So the rest of the floor was double rooms, and the small double and the triple. And of course, this housing, you know, your choice for room went by seniority, so the older you were, the better room you got to pick. And I was way at the bottom because I was not only a new pledge, but I was a freshman pledge. So I was at the bottom of everything. There was a few of us. There were a couple of freshmen in my pledge class. But so I ended up in the small double my sophomore year, which ordinarily would have thought would be awful, but that was my best year. And I ended up with someone that I didn't know that well at the time, but she became my best friend. So yeah, we had a great time. So I loved living on the floor. That was really fun, and it was kind of a corner room too. We had bunk beds. I don't know how we fit in there when I think about it now, and I try to imagine, but it was a lot of fun. It was good to live with all of the people that you know, and as you were getting to know them, especially, and plus at Penn State, it was actually a great location because that dorm was right on the main street. It was on campus, but right across the street was the off campus, and all of the good restaurants, and McClanahan's, which was the like convenience store with everything you could need, from snacks to pens and paper and pencils, or a Penn State t-shirt if you ran out or something was there. So it was like right across the street. It was very convenient. So it was a great location. And then I was there my sophomore year too. But then I had a regular size room. And I changed my roommate that year. I lived with someone else, even though my roommate, and who was my best friend, lived on the floor too. We swapped it out so we could live with other people. And so that was fun, yeah. And then my senior year, I moved off campus. But I lived with 3 other Alpha Chis in my apartment. So, but it was fun. It was just nice to be with all the people that, you kind of have something in common with. And our suite, like, it was handy for meetings and stuff because the suite was downstairs. So you were always right there. Whenever there was an event or something happening, we always met. That's where the meeting place was, and then we would go to whatever it was together for the most part. So that was good. Yeah. So I liked living with them.
Yeah. Was there like a rivalry between sororities? Was it like, was everyone friends? Did you have friends in other sororities, or was it kind of like competition, or was it only competition like during Greek week, or so I guess what was your experience with that?
It was definitely competition during like Greek week and homecoming and stuff like that when you're you're competing, and that was the purpose of it. And there was definitely I don't know how you say it. Like, I guess, yeah, kind of a competition. I mean, we had friends in other sororities. We definitely knew people in other sororities and had friends. But there was, around the rush process, I guess, there was kind of a competition because everybody, hoped that everybody liked their sorority. But there was also definitely the, I don't know what to call it, but each sorority kind of had a reputation, I guess, whether it was true or false. So there was like a hierarchy kind of, and there was a perception that certain sororities were better than others or whatever, or had a certain kind of person in them, or attracted a certain kind of person, which, is, I don't know. It's a stereotype that at the time, you know it and whatever, and now as time goes on, I can see that it's really rather silly. But you can't get away from it because it's kind of, that's what everyone knows as Greek life. There's a stereotype and everyone assumes that if you're in a sorority, you're this way, or you're in a fraternity and you're that way, and that's what it means. But it's not really true. But it did exist, and it was out there, and everybody knew it. And you kind of knew, and there were little nicknames for different ones and different things, and, whatever. But, afterwards, looking back, now it just seems so silly, whatever. But, so yeah, it's there, it existed. I'm sure it still does. You're never going to get away from it.
So I guess going back to Rush, I know today, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook or like in social media, recruitment videos are like a huge deal. Like everyone goes all out. They're kind of like a movie production at this point, but obviously there was not really the internet or any kind of technology to spread that. So I guess how, like, in the specific parties, like, what did you do? Like, did you dress up in matching outfits like everyone does today? Or I guess did you do skits instead of videos, or how was even, I don't know if you remember like how you found out about recruitment or Rush at all, because today it's a Facebook event. So I guess how was it spread?
Good question. I don't remember how I found out about it. I know that because I was a freshman too, so it was, I think I must have had to go looking for it. It must have been posted somewhere. Things were posted on bulletin boards and stuff like that, or in the student union. There was probably like a fair of some sort where there were organizations or there were things, because it wasn't a Facebook message, or it wasn't anywhere online. So it must have been just a poster or something, that said, come to this location at this time and we'll tell you about it, and then they explained where you needed to be or whatever. And so for Rush, definitely each sorority had their own thing that they did, and there were skits and things. Like I said, the first rounds was kind of just meeting everybody. You just went in and you went to their suites, so you would, like I said, every sorority had a suite, and you would go and they would have it, decorated or whatever, and all the girls would be there, and a lot of times they'd kind of all be lined up, and you'd walk in and, this is Debbie and this is Susie, and then Susie would take you and talk to you for 5 minutes. And then Susie would turn around to Anne and say, Anne, have you met Debbie? And then that way you would get to meet a few people or whatever. So that was like the first rounds. And then the second round, you would probably come back and meet somebody who met you the first time, who would introduce you to more people. But then when you got to like third rounds and preference parties, that's when they kind of started to do more things. And that's when you might have skits, and they would talk more about what their, it wasn't the philanthropy, maybe about philanthropies and how they worked in the community and different things that they did, and what their, kind of what their motto was, or what they, their purpose behind them was. And then preference parties, then everybody would dress up. I don't remember, we didn't have to all dress the same. I think we wore a dress, like to preference parties. Everybody dressed nicely, wear a dress, but we didn't dress all in the same color or all in the same thing, just so you look nice. Alpha Chi, at the time that I was there, I don't know if they still do this, I'll probably get like choked up about this. There was a girl in the sorority who, and I can't remember, she graduated before me, so now I'm trying to think if somebody after her, we must have had singers. We had some people who were good singers. When I was rushing, one of the girls who was a sister already was actually a really good singer, and she was part of a group that sang on campus and even off campus in like some of the bars and restaurants in town. So she had a really good voice. And they sang, you should be interviewing me for this because I'm like, get all weepy. She would sing "You've Got a Friend," and it was like, she would get together and then all the sisters she would sing, and then they would all join in and sing. By the end of it, I was crying, I was a mess. I remember walking out, and someone else who ended up in my pledge class, but I didn't know her at the time, we both walked out crying, and we were like hugging, we're like, I want to be here. So everybody like did something special that would make an impression on the potential pledges or whatever. So that was our thing, singing "You've Got a Friend."
Yeah.
And then I guess, and they must have done other skits and stuff, funny things, just to like kind of show what happens and, you know, different things that they did and talk about it. But it was more about spending time with the girls, I think, and talking to them and just finding out, like, you know, what they were interested in, and if you had things in common, if they would fit with the group of girls that were there, and if you would fit with that group of girls. And, you know, because if they all said, you know, we eat Chinese food every night, and, you know, we love to play rugby, and you didn't like Chinese food or rugby, maybe that won't be good, you know, or something like that. But, you know, so that's what it was. But
was there like cheering at the beginning of parties? I know now like we do a lot of cheers, like different Alpha Chi cheers when everyone's walking in, or was it just like, oh, like hi?
I don't remember. There might have been, I don't know if there was cheering as much as just welcoming and hi, you know.
Okay.
It was probably loud and noisy, and
Yeah,
you're all here, and oh, I'm glad you came back,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's good to see you. And as the process went along and you got to know more people and the parties got smaller, like, you know, first there's so many people and you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Then when you recognize someone, you know, that you remember from the first party, oh, I remember talking to you, and come over here and meet this one and that. So I don't know if I remember cheering as much, but, you know, I think it was just more like making sure that everybody met as many people as possible and got to know as many people, because then afterwards when you were trying to select people and go through, you needed to have people, you know, who met Debbie Nicholson, does anyone remember her? You know, what did you think, and what did, you know, do you think she liked us, and how, you know, so you needed to make sure that everybody met as many people as possible and got an impression from them. So
did you, during recruitment, did you have someone who was disaffiliated who talk to you and kind of helped you make your selections and do that kind of stuff? I know we call them rail gammas or recruitment guides. I don't know what you called them, or did you like them? Were they helpful?
There was somebody, they weren't called rail gammas, I can't remember what they were called. They might have just been called a rush. Like, they weren't like a rush advisor. They were called something. They weren't called Rho Gamma, but they were called something, yes. And she was someone from a sorority that you didn't know who she was. And she was your contact. And that after each party, that's who you would go and meet. And because we had to write everything down on paper because we didn't have electronics. And that's who you would do that with, and give her your list and whatever, and she would take it back to wherever and sort through it and stuff. So we did have that, and the name might come to me now, but I can't remember what it was called right now. She was I feel like I probably said this name to Lindsay at one point, like, if you're not trying to think of it, it comes to you, but right now I don't know. But that was someone. And
did they do like a reveal at the end where you found out what sorority they were in, or was it just like, oh,
no,
bye?
Because bid day, it was, like I said, it was, I don't know. No, I don't think we ever went back, because the bids came to you. I think they would like slid under your door, or they knocked on your door and you were there and they gave you your bids, and then you went off. So I don't know if there was ever a time where you came back together with them and they told you where they were from or not. Can't remember. But probably after you started pledging and you were in, you might see that person and be like, oh,
yeah,
that's so and so, and look what letter she's wearing or whatever. You know, that's where she is. There wasn't like a reveal thing. I don't think that we had.
How many girls or women were in your chapter, and like how many? I guess you didn't know how many chapters, but do you know how big your chapter was?
I was just looking at the list of my pledge. I should have looked at my composite and counted. I can't even guess. 180 to 100?
Okay.
It wasn't huge. How many are in your chapter?
Right now we're at 110.
110, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe about the
Yeah.
same. I mean, if we lived on a dorm floor, and I'm trying to figure out how many rooms were there on the dorm floor times 2, and then plus some people off campus. And the pledges, and the pledges wouldn't be on the dorm floor.
Yeah.
So, and there were maybe 30 in my pledge class.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Super.
I don't know. And then, the sororities, I wish I knew. I mean, there were 2 in my dorm and 2, they were all in one dorm complex. There was, at Penn State, there was a lot. Like here, there was like north and east and south. And so most of them were in south. And there might have been 2 per dorm, and there was probably 6 or 7 or 8 dorms. So I'm thinking there was around 15 or 12 to... Yeah, there were quite a few sororities, so yeah. So it was pretty large. So then that, times 100 or more girls each, and then there were a lot of fraternities too. There were, I think 4 on campus. The funny story is when I went to visit Penn State before I started school there, and I was just on a tour as a high school student. We were on like a shuttle bus driving us around campus, telling us things, and driving past the 3 or 4 fraternity houses that were actually on campus, and the tour guide explaining to us, this is gonna sound so old, at the time that the houses were leased by the university or by the fraternities for their use until the year 1999. Which at the time seemed like it might be forever, like, we never have to worry about that because it was 1982 or 81 or whatever it was. Now it's like way past 1999. I don't even know if they're still on campus. At the time, maybe their lease ran out and maybe they're not there anymore. I'm not sure. But anyways, that was really funny. I remember thinking, wow, they leased them. So they must have leased them for, and that went back, however many years they'd already been leased. So I don't know if they had for 100 years or I don't know how long they were there. But, yeah, they were going to be fraternity houses at least until the year 1999 and then beyond. That kind of stood out in my mind as part of my tour of the college experience. Kind of funny. Just for the on-campus ones, the off-campus ones, they own those houses and they're there. So, yeah. Did I answer your question? I missed it.
Yeah. Did you serve in any like elected positions? How was that, if you did, or did you ever serve on exec or?
No, I did not. I did not serve on exec or do any. I worked in different committees at different times for different things, and I'm trying to think of what. Mostly surrounding different events that we had, like a Greek Week committee or homecoming committee. One year we did homecoming, and I don't know what I was on some kind of committee involved in that. And there was like a float that and everybody worked on making the float, but there was like a committee who designed it and figured out what it was going to be. And then there was another part of it that was called a Mad Hatter, which was like one person who dressed up as something and then also went in the parade. And I might have been part of that committee. I might have been just on the homecoming committee, kind of organizing or figuring out what we were going to do for each of these events and what the theme was going to be or what our float was going to look like or stuff like that, or around Greek Week or around other things. But I never had an elected position.
Do you have anything else you want to share about your experience or what Greek life is like or Penn State in general?
Well, I don't know. I would say it was a really good experience for me. I would recommend it. I think, kind of like I alluded to earlier, it kind of gets a bad rap because of the stereotype and whatever. And it can, there are aspects of everything, every kind of organization you can join that would be, stereotypical in some way or another, that in a bad way, I guess. But it's not as bad as it is, and it's not really all about drinking and stuff. It does go on, but it goes on everywhere with everybody in every college. So I would just say it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.